to order the first meeting of the 2022 year of the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners. It's my privilege to be able to call this meeting to order. And this morning we have an invocation led by Commissioner Kyle Terpstra. Brian, stay with me.
30 minutes ago, I don't got a notification. This meeting was at 8:30. Dear Lord in heaven, thank you for all things given us. Thank you for allowing us to all be here today and in person. Can you just be with all the county residents and county staff in this new year? Can you just be with all the safety for the men and women serving home and abroad? And can you just allow us all commissioners to have wisdom over this year in our meetings? Amen.
Amen. Join me in a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll call the roll this morning. Commissioner Garcia. Here. Mr. Baumann. Mr. Zylstra. Here. Mr. Dannenberg. Here. Mr. Meppelink. Here. Mr. Terpstra. Here. Mr. Holtlohr. Present. Mr. DeYoung. Here. Mr. Kyers. Here. Mr. Bergman. Here. And Mr. Fenske. Here. We do have a quorum. This is our first opportunity for public comments. And if anyone would like to give public comment, we just ask that you state your name, the jurisdiction you reside, and you have 3 minutes for public comment. Mr. Bowling.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Kevin Bowling. I'm your, at least for 2 more weeks, your circuit and probate court administrator. And as you know, as I've mentioned before, I'm going to be wrapping up a 44-year career in the justice sector in a couple of weeks. And since I announced that to our judges 4 months ago, we've been involved in a fairly robust search that involved looking at candidates across the country. We had several applicants from half a dozen states, from Canada, several from Michigan that came in. And I'm very happy to present to you today and announce the person who's going to be coming in as a next circuit and probate court administrator as Susan Franklin, who's right here with me today. Susan, some of you may know, has been serving Ottawa County over the last 4 or 5 years as our trial division director in Grand Haven. Susan is an attorney who started her, after law school, started her career with the courts with the 9th Circuit Court in Kalamazoo, worked with them for a while, went into private practice in Muskegon County, practiced law for several years, including providing corporation counsel to the Muskegon County Board of Commissioners for a while there with her firm. After spending some time there, came back into the courts. And during that time, she was also interested enough in administration to go back to school again after her law degree and went back to Grand Valley and got a master's in public administration. So she has been very involved in her own professional development, and even more recently has been looking into opportunities available through the National Association for Court Management and the Institute for Court Management, which are also excellent training grounds for people in the court management world. Susan has been a valuable part of our leadership team over the last several years. She's been spending a lot of her time in Grand Haven, but now is going to be branching out and spending quite a bit more time in other parts of the court and the county as well. So I think we've got an outstanding candidate that is going to be joining us shortly. We're going to overlap over the next couple of weeks. Have a little bit of time to make sure that Susan's ready for everything that's going to be coming her way. Some of it she has no idea of yet, but we'll get there quickly. And I just know that over the last several years, I've had a great opportunity to work with all of you and to meet spend some time. So I just wanted to thank you for that opportunity and look forward to talking to you more in the future. Susan?
Hello, I've met some of you before and I'm looking forward to learning more about everyone else as I start my court administration position. I've very much appreciated all the opportunities I've received in Ottawa County, and I'm looking forward to continuing those. And I'm hopeful that we have a very great future ahead of us working well together. Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. Is there any other public comment? Sir.
Good morning, everyone. I'm fairly new to this, so I have no idea what I'm doing, to be honest with you. I do not have time. My name is Jeremy Bosch. I live in Holland. I just wanted to speak with you guys. I've been going through hoops and loops and everything in regards to front of the court in Grand Haven. I would like to see if there's a little bit more professionalism with the workers at front of the court. I lost my son on March 15 due to my caseworker who has issues with me. He called me the day after my son passed away, not even 10 hours after he passed away, to remind me of my child support obligations. My son was born February 18. Since then, I follow the rules and I let them know of every modification going on, every update. My employer gave me time off to be with my son, and he chose to ignore it. So with that being said, my child support arrears have been going up. I've been disregarded. I do have mental health issues. I do have a learning disability and I'm hard of hearing. So I don't really have a lot of good things going for me, but I just know I'm a father of 4 kids. I haven't seen my daughter or my son in almost 2 years. I haven't spoken with them in almost 1 year. I grow a lot with my children. My youngest son is autistic, and that has taught me how to be a good father, how to learn about my son. But I feel that my time with my children have been taken from me to this day. I'm not allowed to speak with my children because the guardian ad litem or my caseworker, the supervisor. Can't really say much about Judge Engel. I don't know much about him. But I would really I'm not the only father going through this. I should say parent. I'm not the only parent going through this. Parental alienation is real and it destroys children. I would just like Ottawa County front of the court to take a recognition to that. I wrote a grievance. Hopefully my words will be heard eventually soon. I can get my kids back. I got 3 seconds left. Thank you guys for letting me speak.
Thank you, Jeremy, for coming today, for being here. Just a quick reminder too, for those who may not know, the public comment portion is a portion of receiving community feedback, and not one where the board necessarily has the opportunity under the rules to interact and ask questions. But Jeremy, if you want to follow up, Rachel from my office is right here, and we'd be happy to take your information if you'd like a follow-up.
Just the other thing, Kevin Bowling's here as well, that oversees FOC, and maybe after the meeting or outside there, they can have a discussion about this gentleman's concerns.
Any other public comment?
My sympathies to you, sir. It's certainly been a tough time, I'm sure. Good morning. My name is Dave Rody. I'm with Allendale, or I'm from Allendale. I come to you today because I have concerns about medical privacy. I have concerns about things that I hear about in the media, things that I hear about in the news, things that might be coming down the road. I feel like my medical situation is my own personal information, and I don't think I need, or it should be, have to be shared with the general public. And I feel like it's being eroded. There were concerns 3 years ago about everybody's privacy, and it seemed to be a big topic. Now it doesn't seem to be such a big topic. Why am I here? Because I'm a voice. I'm a voice in the community. I'm a voice in the state. I reach out to Merriman. I reach out to Victory. I feel like you all have connections beyond which I have. And I would like to ask that you try to advocate for our freedoms and our liberties and our privacy with regard to vaccines and so forth. I'm concerned about how people are being treated in the community and in the state, and even federally for that matter, with regard to whether or not they choose to have a vaccine or not have a vaccine. Vaccinated people can carry and transmit the virus just like anybody else. So I'm not sure why unvaccinated people need to be treated differently and as almost as different citizens. So I'm very concerned about it. I ask that you advocate for those who make a choice. I'm not anti-vaccine, but I have an open mind. And I feel it's a personal choice, and everybody needs to make that choice on their own. That's pretty much just what I had to say today. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here, Dave. Any other public comment? Seeing no other public comment, I'd like to recognize Mr. Fenske for the purposes of a motion on a resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Robach. I'd like to make a resolution regarding the adopting of a one-year term for board chairperson. Suggested motion is as follows: to approve and authorize the board chairperson and clerk register to sign the resolution setting a one-year term for the position of Ottawa County Board Chairperson.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a support. Is there any discussion?
Just a quick question. How long have we had the one-year terms? I think that's since I've been here, right? But has this been something that we've done for quite some years or no?
I think we do this annually. Is that correct? We have to annually set the one-year term, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
And I can look
Yeah.
for you, Commissioner. I'm not sure how
Okay,
long we've
but
done,
it
but I
was
believe it's been.
since 2000, when Governor Engler said this, we've always had 1 year.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
I believe so. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll take a quick roll call. Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Holfleur,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Terpstra,
Yes.
Mr. Meppelink,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
The motion passes. This time I would like to seek nominations for the election of a temporary board chairperson to oversee the election of the board chairperson. Are there any nominations?
Mr. Clerk, I would like to nominate Commissioner DeYoung for temporary chairperson.
All right, we have a nomination and a support for Mr. DeYoung. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? All right, seeing none, we have, can I get a motion for unanimous support of Mr. DeYoung for temporary chairperson?
So moved. Supported.
Moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Mr. DeYoung.
Thank you, Mr. Robach. My one and only job today is, as a temporary chairperson, is to nominate a chairperson to serve as chairperson of the Board of Commissioners this year. And today I'd like to nominate Commissioner Matt Fenske as chairperson for the Board of Commissioners.
And I'll second that.
So we have a motion and support. Is there any other nominations? Is there any other nominations? Is there any other nominations? Seeing none, I move to close the nominations.
You can do a voice vote on that, or you want a roll call.
Let's do a roll call.
All right, we'll do a roll call. Commissioner Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Bergman,
Yes.
Commissioner Zylstra,
Yes.
Commissioner Dannenberg.
Yes.
Commissioner Terpstra,
Yes.
Commissioner Mepplink,
Yes.
Commissioner Holtvluwer,
Yes.
Commissioner Kyers.
Yes.
Commissioner DeYoung,
Yes.
and Commissioner Fensky.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Voted for yourself.
Congratulations. The floor is yours.
All righty. Well, I'm going to need some help. So therefore, I would like to nominate Al Dannenberg as Vice Chair of the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners.
So moved.
Support.
Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Seeing none, I'd like to close the nominations for Vice Chair at this point. Is there support?
Support.
All right.
Why don't we do
Want to do a roll call or you want
a
to?
roll call? Why not?
Commissioner Dannenberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Bauman, oh, excuse me, Commissioner Bergman,
Yes.
Commissioner Mepplink,
Yes.
Commissioner Terpstra,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner DeYoung,
Yes.
Commissioner Holtvluwer,
Yes.
Commissioner Zylstra,
Yes.
Commissioner Kyers,
Yes.
and Commissioner Fensky.
Yes.
The motion passes. Yeah, you want to announce me giving your oath?
Yes.
All right. This time, we need to administer the oath to the chair and the vice chair. You would like to join me, Mr. Chair, at the front, we can do that. The one and only time of year to swear at members of the board, so. All right. We can do these together jointly if you would like. All right. Sure. You raise your right hand, gentlemen. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of this state, the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of this state, excuse me, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Chairman and Vice Chairman of the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners in and for the County of Ottawa and State of Michigan, according to the best of your ability?
I will.
I will. So congratulations. You. Yeah.
Al, did you rehearse the county song?
Pardon?
Did you rehearse the county song?
Yeah. We don't want him to sing it though.
No.
Yeah. At this time, we have a number of action items that we need to complete for our new year. And for the first two, I'm going to call on Commissioner Bergman, if you would address action item A and B, please.
Yes. The first one is suggested motion is to approve the Board of Commissioners committee appointments for 2022. Support.
There's a motion has been made and there has been a second. Is there any discussion regarding the 2022 committee appointments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
There you are. We were just handed out the standing committee assignments for 2022. I noticed the board rules is part of the standing committee. In 2021, we talked about putting all standing committees live streamed. Is that going to pertain to the board rule committee as well?
I know that we're going to live stream our four major committees.
Right, I thought the motion was standing committees would be live streamed.
My recollection, but I'd have to look,
Okay.
was we specifically named the four committees that would be live streamed is my recollection.
I think we named them as because they were standing committees, but if we could check on that. I mean, I'm in favor of having all standing committees being live streamed, so.
Would that include all the other committees?
Well, I think the motion was that standing committees would be live streamed, which is talent recruitment, finance, planning, and
Mhm.
health. And since board rules is now being classified as a standing committee, the
Okay,
way I understand the motion was that would be included as a live stream option.
okay, we can,
Yeah, I mean,
And we can clarify and if we need to revote and whether folks want the board rules committee to be
yeah, just,
included on that or not. But my understanding of the motion was that all standing committees would be.
it's completely up to the board. I mean, the standing committees are the 5 that are listed there: Health and Human Services, Planning and Policy, Finance, Talent Recruitment, and Board Rules. So if you want the board, my recollection was the 4 were the ones that you agreed to have live streamed. If you want board rules as well, we can do that just as easily as the other 4, but that's up to the board.
I agree with John on that. I was understanding it was the 4 standing committees, not the board rules.
But my understanding was that board rules was not a standing committee at the time.
Right.
So it wasn't an option. I mean, I didn't understand. My recollection was that we had board rules as an advisory committee at that time, not as a standing committee.
okay, well, I'm not quite sure.
I would
I
think
guess
that-
I'm interested in other commissioner comments regarding the standing committee for the board rules. So, Mr. Garcia.
Yes, I understand I think that that's a legitimate question, based on the term of standing committees. I guess I just don't see the purpose of why the Rules Committee would be a stream live option. We are talking about board rules, which involve the 11 elected board members. And most of those do not include any public policy. It includes more about how we're going to interact as a board. So I guess I would, while I understand that that's a legitimate question, I do question the value of including that as one of the standing committees that we would be streaming live.
I guess I don't want to monopolize the discussion, but I just want to, for me, the Rules Committee does have policy implications. So that's why, and you said it's not necessarily forward-looking or public-facing, but for me, rules would have a, public policy implication. So if it's in standing committees, for me, it makes sense that it's live streamed as well. So, but.
So all we got to do is pull it out standing committees.
Well, my understanding last year was an advisory committee, right?
It's not an issue.
Did I have that wrong or no?
It was an advisory committee.
Okay,
Yeah,
so, but this year is being
not
included as a
quite sure
standing
how it
committee.
got lumped into
Yeah.
as a standing committee.
Okay, I'm just reading what I have in front of me,
got you.
so.
Yep.
Other commissioners? You
Well,
chaired that committee,
Yeah,
Roger.
I was going to suggest this decision doesn't need to be made today. I mean, this decision can be put forward to John and Doug can talk it over.
Yeah, we can do,
Because he's right. I think maybe John, did you put it as a standing committee, assuming that it was a standing committee?
Well, just in the, I'm just looking here at the board rules. Under Rule 4, it lists standing committees and reports, and it's got finance, planning, health and human services, talent recruitment, and rules committee, and that's where it had been involved before.
Okay.
So we didn't really make a conscious decision to go from an advisory committee to a standing committee. My only comment to Commissioner Zylstra is more, and we can check on the record. My recollection is the commissioners wanted to have the 4 health and human services, planning and policy, finance and talent as live streamed. I don't recall them saying we want all standing committees live stream, and we can check.
Fair enough.
And then you guys can decide what you want to.
I don't think that decision needs to be made today.
And the other thing is with I don't think it does either, just because with the rules committee, in the rules, as you'll see, they have to present an initial draft of rules at the first meeting in September, a second reading at the first meeting in November. So generally, the board rules committee, after, especially if these board rules are approved, really will not be meeting for another probably 8 months or so. So you're right, Commissioner Bergman, we can look into this and get you an answer, but I don't know if you need an answer today.
we have go ahead.
Just like to
remind the board that all of your committees are advisory legally. So we're really talking about the nomenclature you use in your rules. We designated the Rules Committee as a standing committee only to note that we're expecting that that one will have an indefinite duration. That will be a regular part of our operations. So probably a better nomenclature would be the regular committees and the temporary committees. Because that's legally really what they are. I kind of agree with Frank that the Rules Committee is not a regular committee in the sense that it meets every month. It doesn't. It meets a couple times a year. We have very few changes that occur during that. And so there, I think, are good reasons for treating it kind of as a reoccurring, expect to be a normal part of your rules indefinitely, but it's not a true regular committee in the sense that the others are.
You know, I also question, is there a process on how a committee becomes a standing committee? Because I don't recall a discussion as to how a committee becomes a standing committee versus just.
That would be a good topic for the Rules Committee. Right. All these committees, because they do have, there's a legal nature and then there's the practical nature and how they function within the board calendar.
We'll flush it out a little bit and, we'll flush it out and try to get a little clarification as what is standing, what's not standing.
And I guess what I'm questioning, Mr. Chairperson, is whether, today's how it's been identified was an overlooked, or did we just didn't think that as it actually not being a standing committee? So I wonder if it was just labeled wrong.
Well,
Today.
I'm just saying in the rules that was not changed. It was listed under Rule 4, which is titled Standing Committees and Reports. So that didn't.
Okay.
That didn't change itself.
Right.
So, but I'll check to see what just a double check on what the Board of Commissioners previously approved in terms of the live stream.
And it's a great question. I appreciate the question, Commissioner Zalestra.
When we went through the process and looked at the different committees in the board rules, I don't think we addressed this area.
All right.
And so that's why this has come up, and probably should get some clarification at some point here. I'm not sure we want to do that right here this morning, but did you have a comment?
Yeah, just for like transparency reasons, I don't necessarily, is there legal reasons that we want these live streamed, or is it really like a big deal if they are or are not, Doug?
Well, I think that's a decision the board should make. Should all committees be live streamed? Really, that's the question. There's no practical reason why temporary committees or these should be treated differently, other than the comment Commissioner Garcia made, which is that, do you feel that, and this is a question only you can answer, that you're more candid, it's easier to converse internally if they're not live streamed? It's amazing, before COVID, I think the sentiment of the board was we didn't want any of our committees live streamed because we were worried that snippets would be photoshopped or taken out of context and things like that, where people would ruin the board committee meetings by taking them over. We really had a pretty positive experience with live streaming. So maybe that'll be different now. And I think it is an appropriate subject for the Rules Committee to consider within its purview, and then come to the board and make some recommendations on whether there's a distinction or no distinction at all. And you can have a lively debate about that.
Well, I think that, as you had indicated, I think things have gone relatively well in our attempts to be more transparent and more open to the public. And that's something that maybe we can take a look at and, kind of weigh out. We've got 30, 35 committees. So logistically, that would be really difficult to live stream every one of those, boards.
Yeah, I think
Whether
the
it's a
boards,
plat board or agriculture preservation board or, drain board or whatever, that would be, 30 some, 40. That'd be really difficult. But
yeah, just, I think the board's intent was originally the top four, possibly, if you want the standing committees. I don't recall the board saying they wanted every board and commission live stream, because adding the rules committee to be live stream is really not from a technical point, a big deal. It would be a bigger deal because a lot of those different boards and commissions don't meet in here. They meet in different locations where we don't have the technical setup to do that.
and throughout the county, not even in this
Yeah,
building.
so I just caution you on that part.
Mr. Chair, if I may, and I think what John is saying is really smart. We have those standing committees, and then so to speak, we have what we call subcommittees below that. Okay, those are the other ones that are going to be reporting to those committees and then reporting to the board. And it is difficult, like Commissioner Finsky said, regarding logistics for that, but definitely the 5 standing, I'm in total favor that we should be broadcast. If we're going to do one, we should do all. So all in a sense of the 5 is what I mean. So I just wanted to state.
Well, we got 2 ways we can go with this. We can have that motion amended to include the rules committee, or we can go with the 4 now and debate more on the rules committee being put as the ability to live stream.
Go ahead.
The rules in the state says standing committees, and in the state standing committees with the board rules committee in the board rules, correct? Isn't that what you said?
Yeah, the board rules committee is within rule 4, which is titled standing committees. So that's why you see it on your list as
Gotcha.
one of the standing
Okay.
committees. I just don't recall from when we did this, whether the board said all standing committees shall be live streamed, or if the board said the following committees, finance, planning, health and human services, and town recruitment shall be live streamed. I just don't recall it.
All right, well, we have a motion on the floor and we have a second. So we've had pretty good discussion. So I'm thinking that we call the vote and see where it rolls.
Could you repeat the motion, please, Mr. Chair?
It's
To approve the Board of Commissioners Committee appointments for 2022.
which, as that is stated, would include 5 standing committees.
The motion would include what Commissioner Melblink talked about, that all 5 standing committees would be live streamed.
That's correct.
Well, that's not the motion.
Wait a minute,
though.
that's not the
Yeah.
motion.
I just want to make sure we're voting on it. If Commissioner Melblink is adding that to the original motion, I'll second that
No, I
motion.
don't think he's adding it. I think it's already included in the committee appointments. Am I right?
We're just doing the appointments. We're not doing the.
No, the appointments was part of the original motion. What Commissioner Zylstra is asking is, does the motion include live streaming all 5 standing committees?
My
And
understanding
right now
is-
that the answer is no, so I
It's
think
not.
someone would have to
They're
amend that.
really separate, completely separate issues. Okay,
Right.
gentlemen, I really think
That's
that they
correct.
need to be addressed separately. They can't be, we can't lump. them
Okay,
into
that's
this
no
motion.
problem,
So,
Commissioner Melblink,
yeah.
but I would like to make the motion to include the board rules as a live stream option, either before or after we pass this motion that you have in front of you.
Well, I believe that we do have rules about making motions at a board.
This is my 9th, 10th year on this board. This is the first time that was added as a standing for committee meeting. And all of a sudden, it got on a piece of paper here. And now we're all talking, it's one of the 5. That's news to me. You know, this shouldn't have been on this piece of paper.
That the board rules need to be amended to take off 4.4, as John said, because if it's not a standing committee, it's not a standing committee. If it is a standing committee, I'd like to make the motion to have that included as a live stream option. I mean, one or the other, if it's not a standing committee, then it's not a standing committee and it falls outside of the purview of the motion as I understand it from the previous year.
As you see it, John, in the language for the board rules, is this a standing committee or not?
Yes, and
Okay.
we didn't add it this year to become a standing committee.
It's always been.
Yeah. So we didn't change that at all.
And if
I
I
call
may,
for a
Mr.
question.
Chair, I think you should call the question on the appointments. And then if there's a separate motion to entertain that regarding live streaming all standing committees.
There's a motion on the floor. There's a second. Need to call the roll, please.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Holtbluer,
Yes.
Mr. Meppelink,
Yes.
Mr. Terpstra,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
No.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, that's for the appointments. Now, Mr. Bergman.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed updates to the rules of the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners.
Or
There's a motion and there's support. Is there discussion?
And the rules that stand right now for is that what we're voting on, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay. So the 5 committees and 4.
Well,
it includes
it'd be the
rules as a
fifth,
standing committee.
it'd be the fifth one, which is the,
Committees.
yes.
Gotta clarify it.
Is any further discussion? Everybody understands?
So what we're voting on right now is the rules as described in the packet.
That is correct.
With 4.4, with 3.6, and with the updated language to resolutions, correct?
Yes.
You know, I want to ask for clarification again, and I might have missed this. So when we passed the rule on streaming, we actually identified the 4 committees that would be streamed, not necessarily all standing committees.
That's.
Yeah, I'd like to
that's the-
clarify that with.
That's the question we want to just confirm. My recollection is the board specified the 4 committees to live stream. Commissioner Zylstra believes it was all standing committees would be live streamed, and that's something that I can check and report back. And again, with the board rules committee, with respect to live streaming, I don't anticipate that committee actually meeting probably for another 7-8 months anyway. So that's something that we can research and come back to you without fear of, oh my God, we've already had 3 rules committee meetings that have not been live streamed. So,
Mr. Chair, I think if we just put that back to the planning and policy in the next couple months, and John can follow up there, and then we go from there.
Yeah. I'd like to call the question because I think this discussion was on the first motion as opposed to this motion. So I'd like to call the question.
Okay. Mr. Bergman has asked that we call the question. So would you like to read that motion again, Justin?
I believe Mr. Bergman.
Sure.
You want to do that?
To approve the proposed updates to the rules of Ottawa County Board of Commissioners.
I think we're ready for roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
No.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Holtbluer,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Meppelink,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
No.
Mr. Terpstra,
No.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, going on to C through G. Mr. DeYoung, would you handle those resolutions, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding the positive public monies, I move to approve and authorize the board chairperson and clerk register to sign a resolution enabling the Ottawa County treasurer to deposit all public funds in approved financial institutions and execute any necessary contracts for the same for the benefit of the county.
There's been a motion on the floor. For support, is there any discussion? Seeing none, will you do the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers.
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Meppelink,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Holtvluwer,
Yes.
Mr. Terpstra,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Regarding the positive drainage fund district, I move to approve and authorize the board chairperson and clerk register to sign a resolution authorizing the Ottawa County treasurer to deposit and invest drain funds in identified financial institutions and execute necessary related contracts for the benefit of the Ottawa County Water Resource Commission.
Motion has been made, support has been given. Any further discussion? Seeing none?
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Meppelink,
Yes.
Mr. Holtvluwer,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra.
Yes.
Mr. Terpstra,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Regarding the deposit of road commission funds, I move to approve and authorize the board chairperson clerk register to sign a resolution authorizing the Ottawa County treasurer to deposit and invest road commission funds in identified financial institutions and execute related necessary contracts for the benefit of the Ottawa County Road Commission.
Motion has been made. It's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Terpstra,
Yes.
Mr. Holtvluwer,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Meppelink,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Regarding investment of surplus funds, I move to approve and authorize the board chairperson and clerk register to sign a resolution enabling the Ottawa County treasurer to invest and reinvest surplus funds in compliance with the current Ottawa County investment policy and to execute any necessary contracts for the same.
Support.
Motion's been made. It's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will you call the roll?
Sir, Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Holtvluwer,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Terpstra,
Yes.
Mr. Meppelink,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Regarding tax credits for qualified individuals, I move to approve and authorize the board chairperson and clerk register to sign a resolution authorizing the Ottawa County treasurer to waive administration fees and interest for real property taxes paid prior to May 1 by qualified persons as set forth in the resolution.
Second.
Motion's been made and there's been a second discussion.
Yeah, just a quick
Mr. Zylstra?
question. My understanding of the resolution is that the legislature has provided for this, the possibility of a tax credit. Are we offering this tax credit to this population, the senior citizens, paraplegics, quadriplegics, et cetera? Is that something we're actively doing, or are we just allowing for the possibility of that?
We allow that, and there's certain eligibility requirements and certain claim forms that have to be filled out. And if they comply with the requirements in the statute, then they're.
Okay, so this is just allowing that to happen, enabling.
It's allowing that to happen.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, will you call the roll, please?
Sir, Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Terpstra,
Yes.
Mr. Meppelink,
Yes.
Mr. Holtvluwer,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next is appointments from the Talent and Recruitment Committee. Mr. Garcia, could you handle this, please?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding the building authority, the committee is recommending that we appoint Gary Rosama, Terry Blanchard, and Ron Franz to fill 3-member vacancies beginning immediately and ending December 31st, 2024.
Second.
Just a note on this, the board had previously approved Ron France only through 2023. It should have been through the end of the year 2024. And likewise, when you get to the CMH appointment of Mr. Parnin, you had previously approved it through March 31st, 2024. It should have been 2025. That's why you're seeing a couple names again.
Motion has been made. It's been seconded. It's filling of 3 seats with 3 individuals, so I don't think we need to do a full roll call just to
That's correct.
voice vote.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you can do voice vote.
All those in favor of approval of Gary Rosema, Terry Blanchard, Ron France to fulfill the building authority positions indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries.
Okay, and regarding the community mental health, the committee is recommending David Parnin to fill 1 general public vacancy beginning April 1st, 2022 and ending March 31st, 2025.
Support.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing that there's just 1 individual to fill 1 vacancy, we'll also do a voice vote on this. All those in favor of David Parnham to fill the general public vacancy beginning April 1st and ending March 31st, 2025, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries. Finally, this is our second opportunity for public comment. So if there's someone that would like to speak to us, please indicate your name, your address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there anybody on?
There is not, Mr.
There is
Chair.
not. Seeing none, we'll close public comment and we'll entertain a motion for adjournment. All those in favor of adjournment indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, we're adjourned.